There are 99 red balloons, and there are now 99 episodes in the bag for Movies You Missed podcast.
Ho, 99. Wow. That's impressive.
It is. I'm V.
I'm John.
And we are two industry veterans who love to recommend movies to you without spoiling them.
Indeed we do. Not one spoiler here at Movies You Missed podcast in 99 episodes.
In 99 episodes and for 99 more at least.
Oh, hopefully.
We've been friends for over 25 years, and every week we pick a theme, and each of us picks a movie to go along with it. This week, it's new Disney princesses.
Yeah, Disney. When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. That was my horrible Jiminy Cricket.
That was a fantastic Jiminy Cricket. I bet our audience is clapping for you right now.
Well, if they did clap, send us a video of you reenacting the clap for me, please. I'm very self-conscious about my Jiminy Cricket.
Never be self-conscious about your singing. It's one of my favorite additions to this podcast.
Oh, well, thank you. And if there are people actually listening, it'll be the only time you hear me sing because I don't have to look at anybody.
As many of our returning listeners know, we also like to discuss the new movies we saw either in theaters or on streaming this week.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I speak for both of us when I say that we are extremely stoked to talk about this experience.
Well, at least one of us is.
Oh, I spoke too soon. Uh-oh.
No, not at all. This was one of the most spectacular fucking masterpieces of sci-fi cinema that I have seen since Tenet, to be honest with you.
You're just messing around then.
Yes, of course.
Got it.
No, this was absolutely epic on every fucking scale, and seeing it in the 4DX theater made it so much more epic. And I'm so, it's running through my veins right now. I will see this movie again in IMAX or the 4DX again. Who knows? But I'm seeing this movie again, absolutely.
And without further ado, we are talking about Dune Part 2.
Oh, yeah, we didn't even say what movie we're talking about.
We were just too excited.
Yeah, oh man. My dad and I left the theater just completely on an adrenaline high. Absolutely fantastic movie. Loved every single minute of it. It did not feel like it was 2.5 hours.
No, it did not waste a single frame.
Not at all. Amazing soundtrack, special effects off the charts, action just epic. Amazing.
I was talking with my sister about this today, actually, and we both agreed that Part 2's score by Hans Zimmer was better than Part 1's by Hans Zimmer.
I like them both. I think this one definitely takes the cake, but this was just an absolutely fantastic soundtrack.
It certainly had Gladiator vibes for me.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, Hans Zimmer's done it again, as he always does.
So definitely go and see this movie. I think it's a gorgeous masterpiece. I certainly don't want to speak for you, but it sounds like we're both big, huge fans of this movie. And yes, I'm
100%.
Definitely going to go see it in IMAX next week.
Hell yeah.
Every part of this movie is amazing, from the casting to the performances, like we said, the score, the cinematography, oh my god, the visual effects are unbelievable. Denis Villeneuve did it again. He's one of my all-time favorite directors, and I'm just sad that we have to wait multiple years before he even considers doing another Dune movie.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame, but I am completely 100% with Christopher Nolan and calling this one the Empire Strikes Back of science fiction films.
Oh, yes, I think it's actually one of the best science fiction films I've seen in ever. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking great.
Well, I'm so glad you enjoyed it as well, and that we can talk about it.
Hell yeah.
And so that's the movie we saw in theaters this week. Everyone, definitely go watch it.
Indeed. That's the movie you and I saw this week. I also saw another film in theaters this week.
Oh, apologies. I was completely talking out of turn. Please.
No problem.
Share with us what else you watched.
I went and saw Justine Triet and Sandra Hüller bringing us Anatomy of a Fall. I really didn't know anything about this movie when it came out last year. I didn't really know much about it other than the very minimal sentence that I read about it, and I'm so very glad that I saw this movie in theaters. It is absolutely worthy of a Best Picture nominee, a Best Actress nominee, a Best Directing nominee. Anatomy of a Fall is a courtroom drama masterpiece, and if you have not seen this movie, you have 5 days until the Oscars come. You gotta see Anatomy of a Fall.
That's great to hear. It is one of 2 Best Picture nominees I still need to watch before Sunday, but I'm really glad it's gotten a thumbs up from you.
Yeah, absolutely. The theater was packed. It was a beautiful Sunday. But yeah, I very much enjoyed the movie. The cast was absolutely fantastic, and the kid that plays Sandra Hüller's son was just captivating. Everybody's got to see this movie, 100%.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to win Best Picture, but kind of like what we said with Zone of Interest, if Oppenheimer were not nominated, I would be like Zone of Interest or Anatomy of a Fall for sure.
Wow, that's awesome to hear.
Indeed, I highly recommend.
All right. Let's roll back only a couple of years to discuss new Disney princesses in the 21st century.
Yeah, I'm excited about these movies.
And I believe you go first.
All right, let me dive right in. Let me jump right in. Let me hop right in, if you will. I chose a film from 2009. I have done the year 2009 twice here on this podcast. And oddly enough, one of the voice actors in my movie is in my other 2009 pick of Coraline. He plays the kitty cat in Coraline. Yes, talking about Keith David. He is a voice in this film. Again, from 2009, from Walt Disney Animated Pictures. This is The Princess and the Frog, everybody.
First time watch for me.
Yeah, it was. I was very excited to watch it with you here while you were hanging out with me over the last couple of days.
Me too. I always love having a first watch together.
Yes, there were a few of them this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
One of which I was very excited to show you because it's one of my favorite films of all time. And I think I did traumatize you.
Completely. A film I will never, ever watch again. And unfortunately, our audience is going to have to wait a little while for us to discuss that film, but yeah, that was one of the most horrific movie experiences of my entire life.
Wow. Anyway, like you said, we'll get into that one when we get to that episode, which is coming up. And since you've now watched it, you don't have to watch it again.
Thank God.
But, yes, The Princess and the Frog is inspired by The Frog Princess by E.D. Baker. The story of The Princess and the Frog is written by Ron Clements, John Musker, Greg Erb, Jason Ormond, and Rob Edwards. The screenplay and the direction by Ron Clements and John Musker. We'll get into their career in just a little bit, even though, V, you did during Hercules. There's one of the movies that those two did together with Walt Disney Animated Pictures.
And that's a good indicator of the quality of this movie.
Absolutely. This movie stars the voice talents, and I do mean voice talents because not only do these actors voice the characters, they sing all of the songs as well. This is the first movie from Disney that has happened since 1991 when The Beauty and the Beast came out.
Wow, that is unfortunately not surprising once you think of it, but also wonderful to hear. And
Yes.
I really hope, well, they're not continuing to do that because we've seen recent Disney animated films and
Yes.
they're hiring movie stars instead, which is bullshit. But
Yes.
it just adds to the film because you can really tell the difference between a voice actor and a singing actor when there's 2 of them.
Oh, definitely. Aladdin, case in point.
Lion King, second point.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Especially when Simba's old. That ain't fucking Matthew Broderick.
Oh, not at
There's
all.
no way.
That's not Tate Donovan singing Hercules' song.
No, it's not. But going back to the voice actors who sing in this movie, Anika Noni Rose, we discussed her when we discussed Dreamgirls several episodes ago, which is one of my picks. Keith David, also discussed in Coraline, one of my picks from 2009.
And we discussed him in my drug cinema episode because he's in Requiem for a Dream.
That's right, he is, and he is in another film that we also watched together, American Fiction, which is awesome.
God damn, that film's so good.
Yes, it is. We also have Michael Leon Woolley, Jennifer Cody, Jim Cummings, Jennifer Lewis, Terrence Howard, and John Goodman. Now, John Goodman does not sing, neither does Terrence Howard, but everybody else does. And Jim Cummings, if you don't know him by name, is one of Disney's most treasured voice actors. He's been Winnie the Pooh. He's been Goofy. He's been. And I'll get into a little bit more of Jim Cummings after I break down The Princess and the Frog. For those that have not seen this masterpiece of hand-drawn animation, Princess and the Frog begins in the year 1912. We meet Tiana and Charlotte as children. Tiana and Charlotte are being read The Frog Princess by Tiana's mother, who is a dressmaker for Charlotte and the, rich commonwealth of New Orleans. We find out later on also that Tiana and her mother and father live a little bit farther away from the rich commonwealth in New Orleans. But her father is a cook at home. He's got a day job, but he really likes to cook at home. And Tiana's also on the spectrum of wanting to cook. So we learn early on in this movie that Tiana wants to make gumbo, and she wants to kind of follow in her father's footsteps because her father hopefully one day will have a restaurant of his own. But he wants to call it Tiana's Place, name it after his daughter. Tiana sets out to make enough money to buy a restaurant, name it Tiana's Place, and just fill it with New Orleans cooking, home cooking, soul food, etc., etc., etc. So, like I said, the movie begins in 1912. Fast forward now to 14 years later in 1926, which is when the rest of this film is set. Tiana's an adult. She's working 2 jobs. She's busting her ass trying to make all this money so that she can buy a restaurant. Her very good, rich friend, Charlotte, is one of those blondes that we all know. She's a bit stereotype in The Princess and the Frog, very ditzy, very much like, I want to marry a handsome prince. She's got the money, so of course, why not be betrothed to another man with money, etc., etc. We find out also, in the midst of all this, that Prince Naveen from Maldonia is on his way to New Orleans to find a wife. So Charlotte's all up in arms about this. She needs to win Prince Naveen's heart, marry him, and be off and living the lavish life of a princess. So she ends up asking Tiana to make some of her world-famous man-catching... Well, listen to this stuff because this is really great.
How about I celebrate with...
Beignets. I got a fresh batch just waiting for you.
We'll keep them coming till I pass out.
Tia. Did you hear the news? Tell her. Oh, tell her, Big Daddy.
Oh, yeah, Prince Naveen.
Prince Naveen of Maldonia is coming to New Orleans. Oh, isn't he the bee's knees? Ooh, tell her what you did, Big Daddy.
Well, I invited...
Big Daddy invited the prince to a masquerade ball tonight. Ooh, tell her what else you did, Big Daddy. Go on.
And he's staying... And he's staying at our house as my personal guest.
Oh, Lottie, that's swell. A little word of advice. My mama always said the quickest way to a man's heart is through his stomach.
That's it!
What just happened?
Oh, Tia, you're a bona fide genius. I'm gonna need about 500 of your man-catching beignets for my ball tonight. Excuse me, Daddy. Will this about cover it?
This should cover it just fine, Lottie. This is it. I'm getting my restaurant.
Woohoo!
So Tiana, at this point now has the money. She's going to put the down payment on this piece of land. She meets up with the real estate guys, and they're like, oh, we'll get the paperwork tomorrow, and you can sign this, and this will all be yours. And she goes, I'll do you one better. Why don't I sign it tonight at the party at the LaBeouf's house? They're like, you know what? Screw it. Yeah, we'll sign the paperwork with you tonight. No big deal. So Tiana gets all excited, tells her mom about it. We're treated to one of the first songs that Tiana sings, Almost There. Fantastic song. Awesome animation that goes along with it. I love that sequence. And again, this movie is one of those movies where there really is not a bad song in it. And every song is fantastic. It's catchy and just wonderful.
They really do. I loved every single song in this movie. I've listened to the soundtrack several times since watching this film with you.
Yes.
And that creates such a strong musical. There's nothing worse than a musical where there are a couple of good songs in the beginning and then it just kind of goes downhill from there and there's nothing else memorable.
Yes.
This is not a front-loaded movie at all. It stays consistent and the pacing's great, and including the music throughout the entire film.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The soundtrack is great, which was written by Randy Newman. We all know him from Toy Story and A Bug's Life. He wrote the original songs and the music for this movie, which I'm very happy with. I mean, he really killed it with all these damn songs.
Didn't he also write the music to Monsters, Inc.?
Oh, absolutely, he did.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a great soundtrack, too.
Which is crazy because he has a very distinctive sound. I had no idea this was Randy Newman during this movie until you told me.
Yeah.
I was
it's one of those
incredibly
eye-openers.
impressed with how he handled this soundtrack and how he decided to write it.
Absolutely, I'm with you. And he was nominated, not once, but twice at the Oscars that year for Best Original Song in a Motion Picture.
Oh.
For Almost There and Down in New Orleans, which is the song that opens the movie.
Nice.
Those two songs were nominated. Unfortunately, neither of them won that year. Very sad, but still pretty awesome that they were nominated. So Charlotte's excited. Tiana's excited. It's time for the LaBeouf party. Prince Naveen is there. However, before the party does take place, we are introduced to one of my favorite villains of the last 15 years, next to your villain in the movie that we will be discussing shortly. Dr. Vasilier shows up. He is the Shadow Man. He is voiced by Keith David. He's a voodoo hoodoo New Orleans gentleman, and completely all about the tarot, all about the spirits, and taking chances and whatnot. He's got a fantastic song, and Keith David can really fucking sing. I loved it. I've also had the very extreme pleasure of working with Keith David on a movie several years ago. I loved hanging out with him for the few days that he was on this movie that I was a second AD on. And actually, all we really did talk about was Cloud Atlas, because he's in Cloud Atlas, and it was a lot of fun to hear his backstories of being on the set of Cloud Atlas. It was awesome, because he loved the movie, so I was very excited to talk to him about it.
Of all movies you could have picked to talk to Keith David about, he's been in so many.
I know, but Cloud Atlas was still kind of fresh, and I loved the movie, and I'm not going to be like, dude, I loved you in Requiem for a Dream when you... No, not going to talk to him about that. But Keith David can really play anybody. He's a big fan of Keith David. I love him in Larger Than Life, which is a Bill Murray movie from the 90s. I don't know if anybody remembers that movie.
No.
Matthew McConaughey is also in it. It is a fucking fantastic movie. Might have to throw it on the list because it's a good one. I don't know if it holds up anymore. But anyway, back to Dr. Vasilier. So we end up actually finding out that Prince Naveen is on this quest to marry a rich woman because he's now kind of been cut off from mom and dad, and he needs a little bit of funds. He's a playboy. He's definitely a bit misogynistic. He's a bit of the objectifier as well. At one point, he calls Tiana waitress and not even by her real name. So there's a little bit of that going on. Of course, again, 1926. At the LaBeouf party, we end up finding out that, unfortunately, Tiana was outbid for the property that she put this money down earlier. And she's like, well, what the hell am I going to do? And early on in the movie, like I had mentioned, when Tiana and Charlotte are children and this story is being read to them, The Frog Prince, in the story, there's the whole wish upon a star thing, and hold that wish tight, hold that dream tight. Maybe it'll come true. So Tiana is a little bit not so sure about this whole thing. And on top of that, the Frog Princess has to do with kissing a frog and turning that frog back into a prince, etc., etc. So Tiana's like, I'm never going to kiss a frog. That's ridiculous. And Charlotte, of course, like, I'd kiss 1,000,000 frogs if they had turned into 1,000,000 princes for me. Tiana is, unfortunately, now a bit at a loss. She's not entirely sure what to do. She's holding on to the Tiana's Place piece of paper that she's had in her pocket pretty much her whole life growing up. It's the dream. She's holding it close. She's holding it near to her heart. She wished upon a star as a child, and she thinks maybe now that she's a little older, if she wishes a little harder, maybe something good will happen for her. So as she's wishing upon a star, there's a frog on the ledge. She looks down, and she says, just listen to this.
I cannot believe I'm doing this. Please. Very funny. So what now? I reckon you want a kiss?
Kissing would be nice, yes?
So now, very unfortunately, Tiana is also a frog along with Frog Prince Naveen. During the sequence of meeting Dr. Vasilier, there's a bit of a handshake situation where Prince Naveen's little right-hand man and Prince Naveen switch in a weird sort of voodoo way, and now Prince Naveen is a frog, and now Tiana is also a frog. And for the rest of the movie, these two have to figure out a way to either get back to the Shadow Man or get to Mama Odie, which we find out about Mama Odie later on when we meet Ray the Firefly, and when we meet Lewis the trumpet-playing alligator, who I absolutely love in this movie. He's got a great song, as does Ray, a great song called Going Down the Bayou, which is awesome. And like I said, for the rest of the movie, we are treated to beautiful animation, hilarious moments, and more wonderful music. So that is Princess and the Frog. And V, I know you've said it 1,000,000 times, but I want to hear it 1,000,001 more times. What did you think of Princess and the Frog?
I love this movie so much. I cannot believe I have never seen it. I just hadn't gotten around to it as these things kind of go. And so once again, because of this podcast, finally crossing off a movie from my list that I've had on for so long and loved watching it with you. I can't say enough good things about the movie. Like I said, the pacing is great. The characters are lovely. Watching these two try to work together is hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
All of the music is fantastic. I love this kind of Mardi Gras jazz music that is played.
Hell yes.
Every single one of the songs is memorable. And yeah, you are absolutely right. This is a gorgeous film.
Oh, yeah. I will never forget the first time I watched it. My parents had bought it. After dinner one night, when my sister and I were up there having dinner, they're like, oh, why don't we watch Princess and the Frog? It's like, I've been wanting to see that movie. And we put it on, and I just was completely in love with it within like the first 15 minutes. It didn't take the whole movie for me to fall for it, but I loved Tiana. As much as you're not necessarily supposed to love Prince Naveen right off the bat, I did like his. I liked him. I loved Charlotte. She is fucking hilarious. And of course, Big Daddy, played by John Goodman. It's just we've talked about casting before. This is a wonderful cast of very, very talented people, and I love it.
And it has a fantastic message. I was first a little worried just because Princess and the Frog traditionally is a little bit of an antiquated story, right? But
sure,
in the beginning of the movie, when she's little and she's wishing upon the star for the first time, and her dad's there, he tells her that wish will only take you part of the way. Hard work is what's needed. And it is such a great message. And then also when the song Dig a Little Deeper is being sung, one of the lines is, that ain't gonna make you happy now, did it make you happy then?
Right.
And it's such
good.
It's so good. It's such a good reminder of people having their eye on the right prize,
Yeah. Money ain't got no heart, money ain't got no soul. All you need is some self-control. So freaking fantastic. I really shouldn't cuss in a Disney episode, but sometimes I just can't help it. Gotta emphasize.
We'll apologize to my niece later.
Sorry, niece.
So yes, I'm very happy. I am looking forward to watching this movie again, probably in the next week or two. I'm ready to watch it again already.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm so glad that we can talk about it now, because I think there was a little bit of a lull in terms of animated movies getting the attention they deserved in the 2000s.
Absolutely.
And so the fact that we can share this with our audience makes me really happy.
It makes me very happy as well. Like I said, I've watched this movie many, many times. My wife and I, when we went on our honeymoon, we stayed, I think I mentioned this in an earlier episode, that when we were in Orlando, we stayed at Port Orleans Resort, which is at Walt Disney World. And we were walking the grounds, and I pulled out my cell phone and I put on the Princess and the Frog soundtrack, and it just went perfectly with our cocktails and that humid weather in October. And they were also trumpet playing alligators. I know my wife has a picture of me standing next to it, air playing a trumpet. But anyway, great movie, great message, beautifully drawn. This is the first hand-drawn movie out of Disney since 2004's Home on the Range, which actually is not a terrible movie if you've ever seen Home on the Range.
Nope, never saw it.
Oh, Jennifer Tilly does a voice of one of the cows, and I think that's why it's so good, because it's Jennifer Tilly, and she's really funny in that movie.
For all of our audience, she is Jim Carrey's client in Liar Liar.
Yes, she's the victim here. She starved for attention. All of the characters are hand-drawn animation, and that's amazing. There's a lot of digital backgrounds in the movie. You can definitely tell in the first shot.
Our favorite combo.
Absolutely. And a lot of the animation inspiration actually came to the directors based off of Lady and the Tramp and Bambi. They really liked the Lady and the Tramp cityscapes that are used in that movie, and the bayou scenes for the foresty stuff that that were in Bambi. And the reason that they used both of those movies, they feel that those two films in the beginning of the Walt Disney World animation arsenal was the peak of Disney animation.
I would disagree slightly.
Oh.
My peak Disney animation in terms of background is Sleeping Beauty.
Oh, yeah. Sleeping Beauty was pretty awesome.
That forest has been the forest of my dreams since I was a child.
Ah, okay. You want to go dancing around with an owl?
They are my favorite bird.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
cool.
then,
I didn't know
yes.
that. I guess so.
That would be perfect, actually.
Hell yeah. And the animators, like we've discussed before, a lot of animators like to incorporate the actors' expressions in a lot of the characters that, they're drawing. Dr. Vasilier, the Shadow Man, if you've seen Keith David.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely Keith David, 100%. Especially with the gap in the teeth. Got that going for him. Anika Noni Rose approached the directors and the animation team and had a special request for Tiana. And that request was to make Tiana a southpaw, a lefty. Because Anika Noni Rose is a lefty. Yes! So, Anika, if you ever listen to this episode, thank you for the representation of us lefties, because V and I both are southpaws.
That's right.
When I read that, I was like, yes! I love it. More left-hand representation.
Yes.
Tiana is, I'm sure everybody that is a Disney fan knows this, but this is still a breakthrough. Tiana is the first black Disney princess.
And what a wonderful princess she is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Completely agree. Now, there is a country in this movie that is referenced many times because Prince Naveen is from it. He is from Maldonia. Maldonia is a combination of Malta and Macedonia because they are Eurasian countries. and this is a made-up country.
Right.
And Bruno Campos actually does a somewhat off French accent.
He does, yes.
As Prince Naveen. So there's a lot of real and not so real in Prince Naveen. But I like that. That's one of the cool things I like about Disney is like Antonasia from Enchanted and Arendelle from Frozen, etc., etc. So I thought that was pretty cool that they meshed two different countries to come up with Meldonia, and that's kind of a reference geographically where Prince Naveen is actually from.
Thank you. That's actually really helpful. But the name kind of reminded me of Fredonia.
Yes.
Which is a reference to an episode a couple weeks ago about a Marx Brothers movie.
Indeed. Duck soup. Gotta love it. A little bit more about the cast of this movie. Jim Cummings, like I mentioned before, Winnie the Pooh, Goofy, he's been in the Disney arsenal for years. He was cast as Ray the Firefly in this movie, and Ray is from the Bayou. He's got a Cajun accent. And the main reason why Jim Cummings was actually offered the role was because they knew that he had lived in New Orleans for a handful of years. And, I mean, you see the movie, he's got the Cajun accent down. Mm-hmm. And I think it's hysterical, especially because Ray is missing most of his teeth. And he's like, I'm from the Bayou. Like, I can't do Ray very well, but I love Ray. I think he's a great addition to this movie, and I love that he brings all of them to Mama Odie, who's played by Jennifer Lewis. And if you don't know Jennifer Lewis by name, but if you've seen The Preacher's Wife, she is Whitney Houston's mom in The Preacher's Wife. She's got a career spanning decades. And the fact that she sings that song, Dig a Little Deeper, and the introduction to Mama Odie is one of the funniest in like the last however many years in a Disney movie. I just think it's so hysterical. And when we were on our first Disney cruise, actually, the final night of the Disney cruise, there was this really big Broadway show that meshed a lot of Disney movies together, and Mama Odie was involved and Tiana was involved, and I'm not 100% positive if it was Jennifer Lewis or not, but it really sounded like her. And I really hope it was. Like a lot of times, like with James Woods, anytime Hades is needed, he's there. He's going to do the voice. I just think Jennifer Lewis is hilarious in this movie as Mama Odie, and the character of Mama Odie being this blind 179-year-old bayou hoodoo woman making gumbo in a big huge bathtub is just fantastic. So you're in for a treat if you have not seen this movie, especially when Mama Odie's introduced.
Absolutely. That was one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Oh yeah. It's a lot of people's favorite parts. One of my other favorite intros. I mean, again, every character that's introduced is great, but I love Lewis's, and I love that he plays the trumpet, and I love that he's asked if he's ever tried to play with the humans, and he goes, "Oh, I tried once," and then we see the scene where he tries to play with the humans. Oh, it just cracks me up. Yeah, I love it so much. Now, later on in the bayou, there is 3 humans that are kind of on a hunt, not necessarily. There are 2 of them that are actually references to 2 very prominent people in literature from John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men. One of them is supposed to be Lenny, and the other is supposed to be George. And I thought that was actually very entertaining because I saw Of Mice and Men with Gary Sinise and John Malkovich when I was in high school. Obviously read the book because it was a required reading. And I liked the book, and I loved the movie. I was just devastated at the end of that movie, though.
I've never been a fan of John Steinbeck.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
I think that's well, I read Grapes of Wrath, too, but I didn't like that one.
I could totally see that reference with those guys in the bayou. God, they had 2 brain cells between the 3 of them.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Now, Ray, the Firefly, has a girlfriend that he does reference quite a bit, named Evangeline. And Evangeline is actually a star up in the sky, and based off of the geography of the time of this movie, and just the writers of the movie, they decided to put Evangeline up in the sky there, and that's actually Venus, the planet, which you are able to see from the ground here on certain summer nights and certain evenings throughout the year. And the reason why they chose Evangeline and to have it actually be Venus was because Venus was the Roman goddess of love. Ray is very much up in arms about how much he loves Evangeline, how she's his shining star. I really liked his connection to his girlfriend. I don't know, I get choked up every now and then when he's talking about Evangeline. It's really sweet.
It's very sweet and innocent, that's true.
This was the 6th collaboration with Ron Clements and John Musker. Now, V, I know you listed a few of them before when we did Hercules and Tarzan, but I'm going to list them again for those that may not remember.
Because it's worth it and they deserve it.
Absolutely. These 2 collaborated with each other on these 6 fantastic films, because they are all fantastic. The Great Mouse Detective.
Fantastic film.
The Little Mermaid.
Masterpiece.
Masterpiece. Aladdin.
Legendary.
Yes. And V, your pick,
Hercules.
Hercules. And V, another one of your picks.
Treasure Planet.
Yeah, indeed. And this was the 6th one, which is pretty awesome.
Oh, God, they are batting 1,000.
They really are. And the crazy thing about both of these two is they actually quit working with Disney in 2005. John Lasseter, who is no longer with Disney or Pixar, did approach them in 2007 and said that he will give them free reign to do any movie they want, animated or CGI. And this was the route they went.
Nice.
Very, very awesome. This also was supposed to spearhead the return of hand-drawn animation in Disney. Very unfortunately, this movie did not do so well, and it's heartbreaking to hear that. But when we go over the year of 2009, I'm sure a lot of people will understand why, and especially the movie that they decided to release this up against. But before we get into that, a lot of audiences thought that this movie was quote-unquote too old-fashioned. Stupid audiences! You went to the wrong towns in the wrong parts of the United States.
I think that would be a blanket assumption based on the original storyline, not the movie.
That's a good point also.
Right?
Yeah, I
It's
think
something I
that's,
said a little while ago. This very old fairy tale that this movie is based on.
Yes.
You don't really know what the Disney movie could offer.
That's true. Yeah, very solid point. And you were kind of on that spectrum. And then when the movie wrapped up, you were elated because of how it ended.
Exactly. And again, this is 2009. Iron Man came out in 2008. And then Disney went all in on the MCU.
They did indeed. This was the 49th full-length animated feature, and it was the last animated feature of the 2000s because everything started to go computerized.
Mm-hmm.
This movie was released on December 11th of 2009. What else, V, was released on December 11th of 2009?
Wasn't that Avatar?
It absolutely was.
Oh, Christ.
Avatar.
Whoops.
The crazy thing about having this movie come out against Avatar was that they pushed the release date back 2 weeks because they didn't want to compete with Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Oh, God, what a mistake
They really
that
kind
was.
of screwed that one up because I'll tell you right now, this movie would have beaten the living hell out of Alvin and the
Yes,
Chipmunks.
of course.
Nothing against you, Jason Lee, but no, Alvin and the Chipmunks is not good.
I've never found those characters anything but extremely annoying.
I know, exactly. And this was actually the last animated Disney movie to be G-rated because everything started to go the PG route. Now, pretty wild.
I'm so glad you're going first this week because there's such a great continuation of all of these Disney tidbits into my film.
Oh, wonderful. There was actually a bit of trivia about your movie with this movie, but I didn't use it because I didn't want to take any... I didn't want to get tangled.
Oh, that was perfect. Don't worry, that's my very last piece of trivia that I'm sharing with my film.
All right, fantastic. This was the 9th best-selling DVD of 2010. There was no VHS release, very sadly. Like I mentioned, released on December 11th of 2009 with a $105 million budget. Domestic box office came in at $104.4 million. Worldwide box office came in at $267 million. So it did pretty well worldwide.
Did okay.
Still not great, and I
Right.
can understand why they were disappointed. And like I said, I have done the year 2009 before. We know the highest grossing film of 2009 and highest grossing film of all time came out the same weekend, Avatar. Just a little bit more about 2009 for those of you that may not remember a whole lot of it. Second highest grossing, Harry Potter Half-Blood Prince. Third highest grossing film, Ice Age 3, Dawn of the Dinosaurs. Never did see that one.
Nope.
Number 4 was Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. Number 5 was 2012. Number 6 was The Heartbreaker, Up. Number 7 was Twilight New Moon. Number 10, The Hangover, highest grossing R-rated comedy at the time. Number 13, Star Trek. Number 14, Monsters vs. Aliens. Number 15, A Pick of Mine. From Last Christmas, Disney's and Robert Zemeckis' Jim Carrey led A Christmas Carol.
That's the last time you spoke about 2009. Okay.
Yes, yes. Number 18, my favorite Tarantino film, Inglourious Bastards. Number 20 was The Proposal. Number 21, The Blind Side. Number 28, District 9. Number 30, The Ugly Truth. Number 36, Paul Blart Mall Cop, which is actually a very funny but terrible movie.
Yeah, I'll refuse to watch that one.
Number 43 was Bruno. Number 60, Zombieland. 64, Stanley Tucci in his most terrifying role in The Lovely Bones. Number 66, I Love You, Man. Number 67, Underworld, The Rise of the Lycans, the prequel to the Underworld movies. Number 87, Heath Ledger's final performance in Dr. Parnassus. And the 24th highest grossing film of 2009, coming in with my pick this week of The Princess and the Frog.
There are a bunch of films in the top 10 that I would argue are not as good as The Princess and the Frog, including 2012.
Absolutely. Yes, 100% agreed. But everybody does like them disaster movies.
So do I, but that movie's totally blue.
Yeah, it's not very good at all. So that is The Princess and the Frog. If you have not seen it, it's on Disney+. Where else would it be? If you don't have it on physical copy, get one. Keep physical media alive. Now, V, I think it's time to go to some high towers and hang out with a blondie.
Grow our hair out a little bit?
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
Let down your hair, everybody.
And if that's not enough hints for you, I chose 2010's, a year later, Tangled.
Yeah. Let down your hair.
A movie that I often mistake for being a Pixar film. It's not.
It was very satisfying for me to watch you realize that it was not Pixar when I told you that it was Disney Animation. You're like, no.
Okay, first of all, I've never said "nuh-uh" in my life. Seriously.
We were a couple cocktails in. You said no. No, I'm kidding.
And it was fun to argue on the couch about that for a couple minutes, though.
Yes, I like arguing on my couch.
But we didn't argue about the quality of this film because we both love it. It was not a first watch for John. However,
no.
Every watch is just as fun as the first time because this movie is fantastic.
So good. My wife and I watched it like January 16th because we went on a Disney cruise 3 days later. So yeah, I've actually seen it 3 times technically because there was a Tangled live action play on the Disney ship that we saw. So
3 times so far in 2024.
Yep, I'm totally loving it too.
That's great. And this film has my all-time favorite Disney villain in it.
Oh, she is so hot.
She is so awful.
She is. She's terrible, but she's so hot.
You mean when she's young or when she's old?
Whenever. No, definitely after she gets the flower gleaming glowing.
Okay, well, without further ado, to fill in those gaps for our audience and talk about the plot of our film. I mean, my film. Shit.
It's kind of ours in a way.
Yeah, it's fine. This movie opens up with some fantastic, very dry humor narration, actually done by one of the, he becomes a protagonist in this film. His name's Flynn Rider.
Yes.
And he is narrating a little bit of the backstory for this movie. In the hills, a witch lives, and a single drop of sunlight comes down to earth and sprouts a beautiful, magical flower. This witch finds it and learns that if she sings to it, it actually rejuvenates her and turns back the clock.
Yes.
For hundreds of years, she uses this flower as a kingdom grows nearby. In this kingdom is a king and a queen, and unfortunately, when the queen is pregnant, she gets very, very ill. And so all of the guards of the kingdom go searching high and low for some sort of cure. That's when they stumble upon this magical flower and bring it back to the kingdom. And like a lot of natural remedies, they put it in a pot of boiling water, mash it up a whole bunch, make it into tea, and give it to the patient.
Yes.
The queen drinks it, and she does become all better. She gives birth to a beautiful baby girl with blonde hair who's super cute. But unfortunately, the witch still wants her quote-unquote fountain of youth back, her source of long life back. And so she sneaks into the castle and starts to sing to the baby, and the baby's hair glows. So she goes to cut the hair, and unfortunately, the magic doesn't follow with it. So she does what any evil witch would do and steals the baby instead.
Such a witch.
It's classic. And she locks this little girl high in a tower in the mountains outside of this kingdom and raises her as her own. And now, instead of singing to a magical flower, she sings to this magical hair in order to rejuvenate herself and give her long life, and tells the little girl that she's her mother. And that is the most messed up part of this whole movie because she is the most immature, emotionally manipulative, and abusive person I've ever seen in a Disney movie.
Absolutely, yeah. I would say she's worse than Cinderella's evil stepmother. Like, she is just... The dialogue that she has, every time I watch it, is one of those like, whoa! She just said that.
Yeah.
Welcome home, Mother.
Rapunzel, how you manage to do that every single day without fail. It looks absolutely exhausting, darling.
Oh, it's nothing.
Then I don't know why it takes so long. Oh, darling, I'm just teasing.
All right. So, Mother, as you know, tomorrow is a very big
Rapunzel,
day.
look in that mirror. You know what I see? I see a strong, confident, beautiful young lady. Oh, look, you're here too. I'm just teasing. Stop taking everything so seriously.
And you're right, because the stepmother in Cinderella is overtly evil. This woman is so manipulative and is just so sinister and backhanded about all of her manipulation and emotional abuse. It makes her worse.
Yes, it does.
18 years go by, and this poor girl's still stuck in a tower, and she's feeling pretty pent up about the whole situation, which who among us wouldn't, obviously?
Yeah.
And that's where we catch up to Flynn Rider, the narrator of this story, who is a thief, who is very selfish, who only cares about money. Very similar to Prince Naveen, actually.
A little bit, yeah.
About it.
There are some parallels.
And he actually steals one of the tiaras out of the kingdom. He and his two buddies, henchmen really, called the Stabbington brothers, try to escape and get separated through some manipulation by Flynn, actually.
Yes.
And he continues to run away and finds himself actually at the base of this tower. This is where he and Rapunzel meet for the very first time, and in fact, it's the first human that Rapunzel has seen in 18 years other than Mother Gothel.
Right.
And of course, because Mother Gothel is as evil as she has taught Rapunzel that the outside world is terrifying, full of evil, lying people who you can't ever trust and who will always take advantage of you, and only Mother knows best, which is actually one of the songs of the movie.
Yes, so good.
And so, of course, the first thing Rapunzel does when she meets Flynn Rider is smack him over the head with a frying pan.
Love it.
And so through some hilarious interaction between the two of them, where Flynn is trying to be his just schmoozy, arrogant self, and she's not buying a single bit of it, which is really fantastic, and she starts lowering her guard, she tells Flynn about this dream that she's had. Her whole life, there are some sort of twinkling lights in the night sky every year on her birthday, and she wants to be able to see them. And if he is willing to take her, she'll give him back his tiara that she took from him when she knocked him out with the frying pan.
I love that moment. She goes, I won't tell you where it is. And he's like, it's in that pot, isn't it? Then she knocks him out again, and he comes to, and she's like, now you don't know where it is.
Exactly.
I love that moment so much.
Exactly. And begrudgingly, they both agree to this deal. He will take her to see these lights. He lets her know that these are actually lanterns that the kingdom releases every year in the sky. And in return, she will give him back his stolen tiara.
Yeah.
And so we follow this adventure between the two of them of Rapunzel actually going out into the real world, discovering all these things about herself. And one of my favorite parts of this movie is when she's really conflicted about leaving this tower. And Flynn Rider is kind of a jerk, right? He's super selfish, as I said. He's really only interested in his own gains and his own goals. And so one of the things that he tries to do is convince her to go back to the tower and tries to scare her off. And this is actually a really great scene where they go into this tavern called the Snuggly Duckling, full of all these ruffians. And this is another musical number that's fantastic in this film.
Oh, yes. There was actually a Snuggly Duckling themed restaurant on our last Disney cruise. And we had lunch there, and the food was great. And then we did 2 of our dinners there, actually. And both dinners were with shows. So Flynn Rider came out, some of the guys from the Snuggly Duckling came out, the guy with the hook, the guy with the bucket on his head, and an actress, of course, played Rapunzel. But it was so odd. Our table was right up against the stage, so they came to our table a lot, which was awesome. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, we totally just hung out with Rapunzel and Flynn. And
very cool.
Amy was, really about it. She loves Tangled very much.
And similar to your film, we get to see a lot of character growth in the male leads of these movies.
Oh, yeah.
Both of them start off as really selfish, really immature, just kind of douchebags, right?
Oh, big time.
We get to see the growth for both of them. And it's really fun to watch. And then, of course, you also get to see Rapunzel going out on her own and starting to break free of her figurative chains from Mother Gothel.
Yes.
And how the heck do animated characters have such great chemistry?
I know. You asked me that after Princess and the Frogs. I don't know. I couldn't actually find any information if Bruno Campos and Anika Noni Rose were in the same room when they recorded their dialogue together. I hope they were. Like similar with Coraline and Surf's Up. Like I hope that they allowed that to happen because you really bought all of it.
Right? Exactly. And unfortunately, Mandy Moore and Zachary Levi didn't have a lot of time together. They only were in the same room together for their duet.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
And so
good acting.
Exactly. And so it just really worked. These actors are fantastic. Even though they aren't traditionally voice actors, they all did very well. Of course, the woman who played Mother Gothel, who I'll get into in a minute, she's a Broadway star, and you can tell during her songs that she absolutely is. She's fantastic.
Oh, she's got such pipes. So awesome. I know I said Mother Gothel's hot, but the song Mother Knows Best is such a killer song.
But also kind of skin-crawling, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, it's like Scar, like you love that song. You're like, my God, you're fucking terrible.
Exactly. And there are little pieces of her evilness that you pick up after watching this film multiple times. So first of all, she calls Rapunzel Flower. That's her nickname for her because it was originally a magical flower. She talks about keeping her safe, but then you catch the fact that she's looking at Rapunzel's hair when she says it.
Oh, yeah, she never looks right at her, yeah.
No, she's always looking at her hair and saying, I love you most, just to the hair, right?
Yes.
And so there's all these little pieces that are just so insidious that you pick up after watching this movie a couple times. And I think this is a fantastic film, and I'm so glad that you enjoy it too. It has hilarious animal sidekicks as well.
Oh, yes.
There's Pascal, her little chameleon, who's adorable and sassy.
He is pretty cool. I like him.
And we also have Maximus the horse, who is like a bloodhound and takes his job as guard horse for the kingdom very seriously.
Oh, he's so awesome. I love him.
Just like your movie, all of the music is great. It's consistent from the very first song in the movie all the way to Now I See the Light and even the end credits song. They're all great. They're all a lot of fun. This movie is one of my all-time favorite Disney animated films, and I'm so glad you're such a fan of it too.
I am, and this movie holds a pretty special place in my heart and my wife's heart because after we had our first kiss as man and wife, we left the ceremony to I See the Light, which was really awesome. So anytime I watch this movie or hear that song, I get a little bit choked up.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's a good pick, too.
Oh, yeah. My wife did great with the music choices, as did I, because she let me have a few.
That's nice. And one of the reasons why that song and all of the songs from this movie are so great is because Mandy Moore plays Rapunzel.
Yes.
For a lot of us over 30 short from 40 peeps, we know that she started off as a singer and then became an actress.
Hell yeah.
She did very well in that transition. Of course, she starred in the long-running series This Is Us.
Oh, yeah. They shot that on the Paramount lot in the stage next to the stage that I was shooting Scream Queen Season 2 on. So I saw Mandy Moore one time and I froze in my tracks.
A guilty pleasure of mine, she stars in A Walk to Remember.
I saw it one time. It was all right.
Yeah, it's a Nicholas Sparks movie.
He is.
She's in a movie that you vetoed called Saved that I love.
I like her, and I like everybody else but Jenna Malone, honestly. Jenna Malone just did not... I just don't like her. And I know we've had this convo before.
That's okay, because in this convo, I tell you that in real life, she's very unpleasant as well, because I've met her and spent time with her, and she was awful.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah, unfortunately. And so it was fine. It's fair that you decided to veto it. We each have veto power.
Indeed.
She is so sweet and so lovely and just comes across as... This is Mandy Moore I'm talking about now.
I was going to say, you're really going switching gears.
Sorry, Mandy Moore is so sweet and seems so lovely and wonderful and just very kind. But she's very good at playing a bitch. Because
she's fantastic at it.
Not only is she one in Saved, but also The Princess Diaries.
That's right. She is in The Princess Diaries.
Awful in that movie. As the character, she's so mean. She's such a bully, and God, she's just a really good actress. It turns out.
She is, yeah. I kind of like with my Lily James infatuation. If Mandy Moore's in something, I'm going to see it. Nice. I've always liked Mandy Moore. Maybe not so much from her song Candy, but I remember when that came out, and I was like, "Who's this?" And I actually have a few of her albums because I really think she has a fantastic singing voice.
She does.
But there are a couple of movies that I was a big fan of her in, and I liked the movie. I liked How to Deal. I don't know if you ever saw that movie, How to Deal, that she was in. Pretty good flick. And then, oddly enough, I liked Chasing Liberty, where she's the president's daughter, Michael Keaton. Come on now.
And it competed with First Daughter with Katie Holmes in it, right?
That's right. Yeah, it did. Yes. I actually never did see First Daughter.
No, I didn't see either of them.
Oh.
And then Zachary Levi plays Flynn Rider, and he also has a fantastic singing voice.
Oh, man. After the first time I watched this movie, I was like, there's no way that he's
Right?
singing. And then, of course, I'm like, whoa, dude.
He has gone on to star in multiple comic book universes. He is the title character in both Shazam movies.
Yes.
The first one is good.
great. I enjoyed the second one, but
Nope,
I haven't
it
seen it
sucked.
since theaters, so we'll see.
He also is in Thor Dark World and Thor Ragnarok. He replaced
No.
Yeah, he replaced Josh Dallas's character when Josh Dallas was dropped. And then of course he starred in the show Chuck.
Yes, Chuck was awesome.
Until the last season.
Amy turned me on to that show.
Last episode, I mean.
Oh, okay. I actually never got that far. I think we watched up to season 3. Amy watched it all, but for whatever reason, we just didn't keep up with it. But I really liked the show. I
yeah,
liked
it was
him.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was awesome.
Mm-hmm. And Donna Murphy plays Mother Gothel. She is as I said,
Yes.
Tony and Emmy Award-winning actress. She's in some movies you'd recognize her from. She's in The Bourne Legacy, which stars Jeremy Renner.
Ah.
She plays the doctor in that film.
Okay. I think that's the only Bourne movie I didn't see.
Oh, it's forgettable, but pretty good. Rachel Weisz is in it, too.
Oh, well.
Yeah. She's also in The Fountain.
Oh my
she's
God,
one of the
she's in the
scientists.
fountain.
Yeah.
She's in the fountain. Oh, Donna, hell yeah.
Yeah, episode 3, your
Yeah.
pick.
Oh my gosh, that's wow.
She, of course, is Doc Ock's wife in Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2.
Oh yes, I'll never forget seeing that movie in theaters and being like, damn, Doc Ock, look at you go.
I was introduced to her from the Captain Picard Star Trek movie, Star Trek Insurrection.
Ah.
And most recently, she's in the series The Gilded Age.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I have not watched that one yet.
Me either, but I hear it's pretty good.
I've heard the same.
Ron Perlman voices one of the Stabbington brothers.
Yeah, he does.
I spoke about him in episode 84 when I picked the Book of Life.
That's right.
He was the stepdad in Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, yeah.
He's also been in Drive, Pacific Rim. He stars as Hellboy in the Hellboy movies from Guillermo del Toro.
Hell yeah.
He's also in Blade 2, Alien Resurrection, and has over 100 movie credits.
My gosh, that's awesome.
The man is a badass. We love him. You've seen him in real life.
I have.
And the captain of the guard is someone you'll recognize.
Oh, really?
He's in a Nicolas Cage masterpiece.
Oh, okay.
Where he has...
There's so many of those.
I know, right? Where he has long hair and a southern accent.
Oh, snap. We're talking about some Con Air.
We are. I don't know if you'll know him by name, but that's okay.
Okay.
He was the pilot in Con Air.
Oh, gosh. Wow.
His name in real life is MC Gainey.
Okay.
In Con Air, he plays the pilot, and his nickname's Swamp Thing. He's so great in that movie, especially when he bails out. He also is in a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Really?
One of them starring Christoph Waltz.
Oh, is he in Django?
He is in Django because he plays Big John Brittle.
I've seen that movie 1.5 times.
He is the horrible racist slave owner who Jamie Foxx kills and says, "I like the way you die, boy."
Oh, nice. Yes.
That's MC Gainey.
Hell yeah. Okay.
And the man who voices the hook-handed thug.
Yes. Who? Tell me.
He's in Everyone.
Ray Winston.
No, he's in Everybody Loves Raymond.
Oh, it's Brad Garrett.
Yes, that's right. It's Brad Garrett.
He has been up in the Disney arsenal since Bug's Life.
Yes, he has. He's got a pretty good voice for voice acting.
He does.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Dan Fogelman wrote the screenplay to this movie. He is also the writer and creator of This Is Us.
Oh, wow.
He also created and wrote this fantastic, though short-lived, musical comedy series called Gallivant, which is so good
that.
and was on for like one season. It was very silly and ridiculous and musical, and it was about knights, and it was hilarious. I loved it.
I remember when that was on. I wanted to watch it. I never did.
Yeah, it was good. And then he also wrote Crazy Stupid Love, which has one of my favorite twists in film history.
I remember liking that movie. I've seen it one time, and I have been wanting to watch it again. I remember laughing a lot.
Mm-hmm. He also wrote a future pick of yours that's animated that I won't spoil.
Okay.
And he wrote Cars.
Nice. I'm a fan of the 3 Cars movies. I know a lot of people don't like 2 or 3. I like them all. I think they're pretty good.
Agree to disagree. And,
yeah, we can.
And Byron Howard directed this film. He also directed the film that will not be mentioned because it's your pick in the future that I just didn't mention.
Oh, alrighty.
He also directed Zootopia and Encanto.
Well. All right, then.
Yeah, he's great.
Zootopia grew on me. I remember it was like, meh, when I saw it in theaters, but after a few more views, like, you know what, it's actually all right. It's not that bad.
It's one of those films, I think similar to Super 8, that's so good, but for some reason it doesn't stick in your brain.
I don't know if it's so good, but I understand where you're coming from.
Oh, I think Zootopia is great.
Yeah, Amy likes it too.
Yeah.
Again, it's all right. It'll do.
I want you to guess the budget of this film.
Of Tangled?
Mm-hmm.
All right, budget of Tangled, 2010, Mandy Moore, Zachary Levi.
A year
CGI.
after your film. But it's CGI.
Mine.
You're right.
I'm going to go, let's say, 185 mil.
You, like, I think you're going to fall out of your chair when I tell you how much this film
Oh, so I was wrong.
make.
Okay, I was literally waiting for this long pause. I'm like, I got it right. And you were just completely stunned. No, okay, one more guess.
Okay.
225 million.
$260 million.
Holy Tangled. My gosh.
I know.
260 mil?
Yeah.
That's like a Christopher Nolan budget. What the hell?
Exactly.
Was Nolan involved? Was Syncope like somewhere involved in this? Like, come on. What happened? What?
I know. Isn't that insane?
That is. So did Mandy Moore get like 100 million and Zachary Levi got like 75 million and the rest of it went to animation?
Should
Like,
have,
what the hell? And Donna Murphy got like, because she's an Emmy and Tony Award winner, she got a
20
50 million, yeah, like 10 million on animation just for 3. Wow, 260? That is insane.
This is the most expensive animated Disney film of all time.
Even over Frozen? Wow. That is, wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. Frozen cost over $100 million less than this film.
Oh my lord.
Yeah.
Frozen was 160 some odd million?
Uh-huh.
Holy shit.
The U.S. box office was $200 million.
Oh.
But the worldwide box office was over $592 million, so that's okay. So it did fine.
Yeah, that did okay.
And this was 2010, and it did well with DVDs as well.
Oh, I'll bet. We have the Blu-ray here.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Because the previous year, The Princess and the Frog was a box office disappointment, Disney was worried that the princess theme in Tangled discouraged young boys from seeing it. So in an attempt to market the film to a broader audience, Disney made sure that the trailers really hyped up Flynn Rider in it. And changed the name of the film from Rapunzel to Tangled.
Interesting. That was the trivia I left out of Princess and the Frog.
Oh, okay.
That was exactly the trivia that I left out. Only because we were going to jump into Rapunzel. Or, only because we were going to jump into Tangled.
Exactly.
And I was like, now I feel like well, cool. At least we got it out there. And that makes it just makes more sense for you to mention it because it's for your movie.
Well, thank you for doing that. And I actually have another piece of trivia that connects both our movies that is at the end.
Okay.
And so that's why this film was promoted as a comedic adventure.
Which it most definitely is.
Oh, yeah.
On top of the romance and the wonderful music as well.
It's a trifecta. That's why it's so good.
Absolutely.
And speaking of the budget, over 45,000 lanterns are used during the I See the Light sequence.
Whoa.
And as you said, The Princess and the Frog was the last traditionally hand-drawn animated film. This is all done in CGI and 3D.
Yes.
And computers, and maybe that's why they justified the price tag. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. My gosh.
And also, as you said, The Princess and the Frog is the last Disney animated princess movie to get a G rating.
Right.
which means this was the first animated Disney princess film to get a PG rating.
Hey, look at that.
Look at that. Like I said, I'm
That's
so
cool.
glad the order of films this week.
Yeah, that's great.
And because yours was the 49th feature film from Disney Animation Studios.
This was the 50th.
That's right, and the first one of the
Awesome.
2010s.
Nice.
Zachary Levi got this part by auditioning with an English accent.
Really?
And later this was dropped and he read the role in his own American accent. Thank God. This would have been weird with him in a British accent.
That would have been wild to
Yes.
hear, yeah.
Yes. And they came up with the look of Flynn Rider by having what's called a hot man meeting.
Oh, my Lord.
The directors of this film brought all of the animation studio female employees into one room and asked them for their opinions on what made a man good looking. And that's how they created Flynn's character design with eye color, hair color, style, body type, etc.
Sure.
And so various male celebrities, including Hugh Jackman, Brad Pitt, David Beckham, and Gene Kelly,
Oh, nice.
had their pictures on the walls of the room when they animated Flynn Rider.
Very, very cool.
Now, I know you usually do alternate casting, but I had to include this piece of trivia.
Oh, yes.
Kristen Bell and Idina Menzel both auditioned for the role of Rapunzel.
No kidding. That's crazy.
And as all of you know, 3 years later, they both starred together in Frozen.
That's awesome.
Another reason why this budget was so big, in the Kingdom dance scene, there are over 3,000 people present.
Oh my gosh. $3,000?
It is the largest crowd scene in any Disney animated film.
That is impressive.
Yeah. And the reason they had a random chameleon sidekick in this film is that it was inspired by a producer's pet chameleon named Pascal.
Nice.
Which
Chameleons are really cool.
I've always wanted one.
I would love a reptile. I don't know if I'll ever get one.
I grew up with reptiles in our home. We had a lot of pet reptiles, but we never had a chameleon. I just think they're so cool.
They really are. The grabbing and the eyes and the
Yeah.
camouflage, all of it's really neat.
Very cool. And from the beginning, producer Glenn Keane wanted this film to look and feel like a traditional hand-drawn film, but in 3D, which is why the
sweet.
forest looks as cool as it does and very classic Disney.
Oh yeah, the animation is pretty stellar in this movie.
And like your film, it also got an Academy Award nomination for Best Song for I See the Light.
Oh, wonderful.
It also didn't get a nomination for Best Animated Feature, which is now seen as a major snub.
That is a big time snub-a-dub-dub.
Right?
Yeah.
And my last piece of trivia to tie this whole episode together, both
Yes.
Flynn Rider and Rapunzel, as well as Tiana and Naveen, are all seen at Elsa's coronation in Frozen in 2013.
Oh, snap. That is awesome. Now I'm going to watch Frozen.
Right?
Yeah. That's cool.
Yes, and so that is Tangled, came out in 2010, one of my all-time favorite Disney animated films, or just in general favorite Disney film. It's that good.
Oh, yeah.
Please watch that, and then go on to Disney Plus and watch the Disney short of Tangled, because it is a continuation of the story that is absolutely hilarious.
I have seen the short. It's very entertaining. And this movie, I want to say that Amy and I watch this movie like once a year and have since we've been together. It's one of those types of movies.
Or 3 times, as it were.
Or 3 times,
2024.
indeed. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll have to share some of the pictures from the cruise on when we post this episode.
For sure. And John, would you watch The Princess and the Frog with your grandma?
Oh, yes. I know we definitely watched it at least once.
Fantastic.
It is G-rated, after all.
That's true.
And V, would you watch Tangled with your grandma?
I would, and I would, of course, absolutely watch it with my nieces. These are
There you
2 very family-friendly films, but as Disney does so well, they are also entertaining for adults.
Oh, 100%.
We watched it without kids last weekend.
That's right. And every Disney movie I watch is usually without kids, unless my nieces are with me.
Mm-hmm, same.
Sweet.
And John, do you want to tell our audience what we're doing for our very special 100th episode next week?
Oh, yeah, we are going to recap the 96th Academy Awards on March 10th. the Academy Awards will air. I'm very excited because I love the Oscars. So I'm very much excited to do the wrap-up and see who takes home the golden statue.
Kind of feels like it's meant to be, given it's our 100th episode.
I know. It's kind of awesome how that worked out.
Nice special theme for the episode.
Oh, yeah.
So we hope everyone tunes in for our recap of not only the ceremony, but of course all of the winners, potential snubs. Hopefully John and I aren't too pissed off.
I hope not. So far, though, I gotta be honest, everything has been pretty good. And, last year we said the same thing. Like, it was another revival of movies, and I feel like we're kind of in that realm again.
Yeah, there are very few categories where I would be legitimately upset if the favorite didn't win.
Oh, definitely.
There are several categories where I'm like, these 3 nominees could win, and I'd still be happy, kind of thing.
I'm with you. Yeah. Best Picture, though, we all know.
Yeah. I don't know. Given the zone of interest in American fiction are as good as they are.
Yeah, that's true. It could be another one of those years where the Best Picture winner is like, wait a minute, no way.
Yeah, exactly. So please, everyone, tune into that next week. And in the meantime, please rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast. As always, if you give us a rating and a written review on Apple Podcasts, we will not only send you a sticker, but you'll also be entered in to win our next reviewer request episode.
Oh, yeah.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning in, for listening. If it's your first time or if it's your 99th time, we always appreciate you listening to us recommend movies to you, so thank you so much. And as any returning listener knows, we like to end the podcast with, film is a form of art, and in art, every opinion is valid. Except if you think
Disney needs to stop making female-led animated features.
Yes, continue with the princess animated movies. We love them. All right, folks, thanks again so much. Until next week, bye-bye.
Cheers, everybody.